All right, we are live. Today is Thursday, December 22nd. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, it's Christmas Eve. Well, at least in this part of the world.
December 24th.
December 24th.
Yeah, I think you just said 22nd.
Oh, did I? Sorry, everyone. So it's because it's 12:22. So I think my brain, like I looked at the clock, and anyway, a lot of twos. It is the 24th. Thank you, Luke. This is our outreach meeting, and there are two exciting things that happened this week that people wanted to bring up. Who brought up Softaculous? Was that you, Luke?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to announce it?
Greg, wasn't you who pointed it out? I'm actually just relaying info I saw on Zulip.
No, it was, yeah. Doc Wilmot got a reply from the Softaculous guys this morning. So Backdrop one-click installer is available for hosting providers that use Softaculous, and that's really huge because we get same exposure and ease of installation in major hosting providers. So yeah, that's really exciting. Finally, we've been chasing people officially since October, I guess, but we had this goal like since forever.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, for your perseverance on that. That's really great. I did notice that he asked in the issue in the backedupcms.org queue if it would be okay if we can mention them. They specifically requested a note and a logo on the download page and in your installation notes. So I was thinking we could put that on the More Ways to Try page, because they could have a whole section on any hosting provider that uses Softaculous could have a thing there.
Yeah, and it can be on the news block, the dashboard block for at least.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Let me note that here in the agenda in case. So I think we can definitely figure out how to support them more since they're supporting us more.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least two. Yeah, there's two angles going away that we need to look at. One is since we now have a new way, hopefully a fairly easy way for users to try the platform and use the platform. We want to guide them towards that. There's some chance that it might organically happen, that people might start choosing that. We have to take a look and see where it is in the menus, and if there's any like SEO type things that can get it to become more prominent in menus. It's a great credibility win in terms of look, see, real, supported, functional, that kind of stuff. And we might want to look at people who are using this method. What are their needs? How do they differ from the other customers? Will this be like a support challenge in a sense that are different? People that are able to get running don't know the things that people that got the previous platforms knew, for example.
Yeah.
Is there?
Sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
Is there anything we have to do when we create a new release to update it on their platform?
I don't know. I would assume that they wouldn't allow us to do anything. Most of the other ones are sort of, they want to do it themselves, but it would be nice if we could at least notify them.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't know, maybe we should ask Andy since he's been in touch with them.
Yeah, maybe to let us know what the process is and if we can help them or notify them, or if they have like a public repo somewhere.
Pretty sure they don't have a public one.
Okay.
Otherwise, we would have tried to submit a pull request to get Backdrop in there earlier.
Okay. And
Exciting.
do we have, Joseph, you mentioned Bluehost, is it?
I don't know that. I think someone mentioned that in Zulip.
Okay, cool. So I'll try to find hosting provider that provides sort of like free demos and uses Softaculous and try to see what the experience is like and see if there's anything that needs to be improved.
Okay.
Doug Wilmot is the one that mentioned about Bluehost. So we skipped introduction. Should we do that?
Yeah, sorry, I was so excited. Luke, do you want to start?
Sure, why not? I'm Luke McCormick. I'm a web product/project manager and occasional developer and other things here in San Ramon, California. And let's go to Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, backend developer. Just helping out where I can. Greg?
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm usually in Australia, but since the whole COVID thing, joining from Greece. Interested in anything that has to do with Backdrop as usual, and any help that any way that I can help. So Jen.
I'm Jen Linton, joining from Oakland, California. Very excited about Softaculous, obviously. Another exciting thing that happened this week that I don't think anyone else knows about yet is a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the backdropcms.org server ran out of processes, I think it was, and we had a very brief discussion about potentially upgrading the account. And at that point, I reached out to Linode to see if they had any open source software support programs. And they had some fine print somewhere that said, oh, if you're an open source project, please just email our marketing department. And so I sent an email off into the marketing department, and they wrote back this week and they said, what kind of plan do you need? And I wrote back and said, this is what we have now, but we're thinking of upgrading to this. And they were like, sure, no problem. We're going to put credits in your account. So all you had to do was ask, and then they give you credits, which I think is fantastic. Hopefully we can find a way to put Softaculous on Backdrop's website, thank you page, more ways to type page, wherever else, and we can add Linode there at the same time they start supporting our hosting. So
didn't we have some credits? Yeah. Where was it? Was that on GitHub or on our site? Because we do have some credits that I can't remember where.
For hosting?
For everyone that's like even the PHP Storm licenses, things like that, we have a thank you sort of like credit.
We have a thank you page on Backdrop. I think it's linked in the footer that has the PHP Storm, GitHub, Tugboat, all of that stuff. As MCI is all on there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Fastly, everyone who offered to support us. So.
Yes, it's a thank you. Yeah. See it now.
What plan are we upgrading to?
So right now we're on a 4 gig server, I think, and we were going to upgrade to an 8.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a huge jump. It's not like we're setting up a compute cluster or something.
No, it's just we have a tiny plan. We need a slightly larger tiny plan. Yeah, we don't really use very much as far as what they're used to shelling out. So I think they're more than happy. We didn't ask for anything ridiculous. They're more than happy to help us, which is great.
Is it comped or is it discounted?
I don't know. So I think the way Linode credits work is that you can choose to spend them on whatever you want. So we could pre-purchase like 6 months of whatever with the credits, or we could like discount the next year. I don't know how that works exactly. But they haven't put the credits in our account yet. They asked me just yesterday for the account information, where to send the credits. So I don't know how much there will be, but the fact that they're offering them anyway, I think is great. And they're just like, of course, we'll give you whatever. Here's.
Looks like a ask and receive thing. So asking you shall receive.
Okay, anything else going on in the world of outreach that we need to talk about? So we are coming up on a 118 release in January. We're gonna have a pretty good list of new features, looks like. So we could start thinking about a blog post and or a newsletter. We never sent the newsletter for 117 in the fall. So it might also be worth thinking about our process for handling newsletters, to try and figure out how we want to make this easier for us going forward. I know we have this like long-term goal of getting Civi CRM up and using that as our mailing list, but right now we don't have that. So we, I think, used Send in Blue last year for all the promotions around Backdrop Live, and so we now have a list in Send in Blue. We also have several people, anyone who's been signing up on our website now, that goes into an old MailJet account. So anytime we need to send a newsletter, we have to export the people from the MailJet account and put them into whatever temporary account we're using and then send the email from there. Send in Blue also costs us $25 a month, and we usually only send one email a quarter at most.
Wow.
Yeah, so I turned off they have like a pause button. So after we paid for the month that we used, I paused it. So we haven't paid again since then. But it would, and we can continue to do that. Just turn it on for the month we use it and then turn it off the next month, sort of thing. But it would be better if we could figure out what our long-term plan is and work towards getting that going. So I don't know if it's worth, I know we all have a lot of stuff going on, like all of us who are interested in the Civi stuff have a bunch of other stuff we're also working on. So I'm not sure that's a priority, but maybe finding another mailing list tool that's easier for us to use could be. Let's see, I looked into Amazon has something they offer. I forget what it's called. I wrote it down somewhere, but it's essentially you pay for like the number of emails you send, and it's something like 2 cents for every 1,000 or something like that. Like, it's very affordable, but I don't know how easy it is to use in terms of constructing the email and getting it out. But that is something we could look into doing. I don't know. I just feel like in terms of our resources, I don't know what's going to be the easiest path forward.
We have some new members in the community that sort of like have implied that they want to help with ways that they can help, but they can't do coding. So maybe we can sort of like solicit their help for producing more such articles, like for doing more outreach. Yeah, not sure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask actually. So is Send in? Am I saying it right? Send in Blue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only current integration that we're using for the mailing list stuff?
I don't think we have any integrations currently. It's all manual. But that is the tool that we use to actually send the emails for Backdrop Live, which is, I think, the last time we used it.
Okay, well, what is the, where do the new emails come from then? In the site when somebody signs up, where does that go?
Email addresses.
Yeah.
So
where are the new email addresses? What's the input stream currently?
So right now there is a sign up form on all of our websites in the footer, and that deposits email addresses into a MailJet account that we are not using anymore.
Okay, and so to actually use those, somebody, probably you, retrieves it from MailJet and puts it into something else to send out. And
yeah.
All right. Well, since I'm one of the slow moving people involved with the CVC RM project, it might be helpful to speed that up to understand what functionality we need to replace what we have now. Because I think it's probably pretty easy. I think it's a tiny subset of what Civi CRM can do. So if we position MVP for that of it's just got to do this and this, we might be able to get that online faster. I mean, is it the MailJet functionality? If we could get Civi CRM to do what MailJet is currently using, is that enough for us to be like, okay, let's do that?
So we have a list of all of the stuff we need in, I think it's in, I'm looking in the backdropcms.org queue because we've gone through this several times every time we go to choose, like when we move to MailJet and then when we move to Send in Blue. Can't find it. Well, we should write it down. But essentially, we need something that will allow us to send around 3,000 emails at once without paying a fee. That would be ideal. We need to be able to embed the sign-up form into our website and style it. A lot of times they give you a form that you don't have any control over, which makes it really hard to style. I think that's why we went with MailJet, because they had the best embedded sign-up form option. And then we needed the user experience of creating and sending the email to be really good. So like MailChimp lets you choose a template and then just like type in it and your stuff goes out. Like we didn't want to have to spend a lot of time writing HTML code for emails in order to get the newsletter out.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, it would be great if we could have more than one person manage it. MailChimp, I think it had a maximum number of people who could have access to your mailing list. In a perfect world, we would be able to segment that list based on who those people are. So if we could, this is something that Civi is going to be really good at, like whether these people are volunteers or donors or people who just opted in through the website, if they've attended an event or not. But that's kind of, wish list items. Short term, we just need to be able to send emails with it.
Okay. Let me see, maybe I can write that up. I mean, because I've set up Civi CRM just as a test thing, and then I just didn't know what to do with it. so having a list of like, can it do this? Can it do that? Maybe it's just, like maybe knowing what you're looking, because it's got this, very, very complicated interface with a million features. So we're trying to figure out which of these 500 switches matters to us.
Yeah.
Is kind of a, but knowing what I'm looking for, maybe I can find it. All right.
If you can write that up in the, I'm just going to drop a link in here in this issue queue for backdropcms.org, because that's where we handle our mailing list stuff right now. That would be great. And I there's probably something in there already. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there related to the mailing list. There's a bunch of stuff related to MailJet. There's a bunch of stuff related to MailChimp, but I couldn't find the overarching, like this is our minimum set of requirements versus this is, and maybe it's in the Civi issue. But I'm sure we've talked about it before. I don't know if it's ever been as clearly stated as you just identified was needed. So
right. It's one of the 275 open issues.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's one of the closed issues too, because we've already made this move. So maybe we're like, oh, we don't need this anymore. We decided on MailJet, and then MailJet wouldn't let us log in anymore. And we're like, never mind, we need another option.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we have until February 1st to figure that out. So I also feel like in terms of our priorities, like this is what happens to us all the time. We're always like, oh, first things first, do the release and then do the blog post. And then we forget about getting the newsletter out. And I think part of it is that like, it's so unpleasant to do the newsletter right now. It's just like, oh, I have all these other things that are much more enjoyable for me to do for Backdrop than try and figure out how to get.
It's not just being a pleasant thing or being drawn to other more interesting stuff to do. Is just there's this spree of activity before the release, and then everyone's exhausted, or they have a pile of things that piled up while we were doing the release, and then at least do we at least have the newsletter in the process, like as a checkbox in the see how. If it's just there, not just being done. Okay.
Yeah, it's always the one where it's like, oh, the newsletter never got sent, but I'm closing this issue because we have another one where we need to send the next newsletter. Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing is that, which is cool. Now that we're talking about processes, there was a post on the forum about a person that couldn't find a section that we were mentioning in our user guide with regards to blocks. And I just went in and updated it and made a link so that others don't strive. But then looking at the same document, it seems that, or the layouts, one of the documents, it seems that we are adding features, but we don't have, Drupal has these gateways. They have this accessibility gateway, the documentation gateway, which it always sort of like, they always, before adding a new feature, they say, do we have documentation for it?
Yeah.
Which could be just, it could even be a documentation placeholder, right?
So
If it's something.
We talked about that in the very beginning and decided that it would probably be detrimental if we prevented anything from getting done if it didn't have documentation. So rather than being a gateway, it's like something that has to get done afterwards. And so that's why we have the needs documentation label in the issue queue. But if you look at all of the issues, closed issues that need documentation in the issue queue, there's a lot of them. And I think one of the problems is that when you merge a pull request, the issue gets closed regardless of whether that documentation task is done. And then if it's closed, we don't necessarily look at it. So it might be, we might need to add something else into our process that would say, like, with every release, review closed issues marked as needs documentation and make sure that those don't get overlooked.
Or open a separate ticket once we close the feature and it's in, open a separate issue which is dedicated to documentation.
Yeah, that would be a good one too.
Or if we ever get a dedicated repo for documentation, we can be adding it there, but so long as it's on the to-do list. And it was very trivial things like we were mentioning the options of the available options in the the title block, and we weren't mentioning the option that we added about copying the title from another block. So it was missing. It was the other 3 options, not that
I
one.
didn't even know we added that option.
There you go.
So I feel like a bunch of these, like what we're talking about, ties together into this common thing. And I want to roll it back like 5 minutes ago, Jen, when you were saying that after a release, everybody's all burnt out, like forgets to do this thing. And I mean, first that seems inevitable. It seems like that's necessarily going to happen. And maybe there might be value to having it be a specific handoff, having another team take the field for that piece and have it be triggered by that, so that when you get to release, it's like, the last thing the release team does is give a bulleted list of what they did to the fresh team that takes the field, that then updates the documentation and sends out information based on that, which is fresh meat for the marketing team, or as well. It's like, oh, okay, here's the things that we're promoting. Here's the stuff that's new. Here's the stuff that's shiny and fresh that people will be excited about. And it's not exciting to anyone who's been working on it because they're all burnt out by wrestling through all the details.
There's small tasks as well. It's like even updating the Wikipedia article with a new release, and I always make sure to do that when we have major releases. Sorry, minor releases, but bug fix releases, even though they might have like interesting bugs fixed or some tasks get done which are semi features, they're not exactly features, but they provide some ease of use or whatever. I might skip one or a couple of versions and then I do it, which is a task that only takes literally 2 minutes, no more. Right, someone goes to the Wikipedia article, clicks the edit button, updates the version number and the release date and publishes it, and that's it, right? But it might just stay there because of other obligations until the next bug fix release. So yeah, it's those those trivial small things that other members of the community could help if we solicited the help, and like I've done it a billion times, and it's like because I do contributions in other ways, like the features that are getting in, it feels trivial. But I understand how if we enable newcomers in the community, they will feel as, contributing, being part of the community, actively.
Oh yeah, I think there's a huge potential for that. Like you're like it's easy, it's do it a million times, but like for someone coming in, like wait, I get to change Wikipedia, like that's that's kind of a cool cool responsibility to have. I think that's an easy sell.
Yep.
And obviously important, right? Well, gets used. Nobody has to dispute if anybody's seeing it. Wikipedia. So yeah, stuff like that.
Well, it would be terrible when it shows sort of like some sort of neglect to people doing research. So if they go to the Wikipedia article and they see that we are many versions behind, they're going to say, oh, this is not maintained, or they're not looking after it. And we might not get a lot of traffic from Wikipedia, but Wikipedia is an important source of information for people. So yeah.
No, I think updating Wikipedia, updating homepage, like there's a whole layer of things that are the documentation, general promotion. Oh, there's a bunch of sort of static things that incrementally move, and I think releases are the point when it moves. So if we can somehow figure out a workflow, figure out a trigger to cause releases to like ripple down somewhere, to be like, here, now's a good time to do this. Rather, have it be pushed rather than pulled by, approaching deadlines. By the way, what happens February 1st?
Sorry, what happens?
Jen said that something happens with.
So usually what happens is we have a release on the 15th and then we wait 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks have gone by and we don't have any like emergency follow-up releases, then we send the newsletter. So we don't want to let everybody know about the product on the day it comes out in case there's something wrong with it. We don't want them to see it right away. So we usually do a 2-week buffer. And then now that we have feature freeze 2 weeks before, that 2-week post-release buffer shouldn't be as important. And so I think over time everything will start to happen on the 15th. But because we didn't always have the feature freeze 2 weeks before, we currently have this 2-week buffer until 2 weeks afterwards.
Okay.
So it's approximately February 1st, but not exactly February 1st.
Yeah, well, it would tend to be. I mean, ideally, it would be like day of release, right?
Yeah.
Or a PR newswire thing.
Yeah, and we do the blog post and we do a bunch of other PR stuff on day of release, but the newsletter usually reaches people that aren't necessarily following any of our other channels. So it's a sort of a different audience of people who are like tangentially interested in Backdrop, but not like on our Twitter. So we're like, we'll tell all of the people that we know are invested in Backdrop first. And those are the people that are likely to report problems back to us and be like, hey, we found an issue. And then we'll tell all of the other people who are likely to just look at it and be like, oh, Backdrop's still broken, and like not tell us. So we want to hear from the people who are going to tell us first.
And then does it get mapped against the roadmap in any kind of organized way? Do you know? Okay.
The roadmap as a page exists just to list potential features that we'll get in, not tasks that need to be done. So I'm usually updating the roadmap as well. So if you look at the roadmap page on our website, it has all the features that are sort of like close to being ready. I've been chasing Andy, actually, if he's listening, to say if he's the advocate for the the context relationships for the layouts, because I see that he's working on the issue, but the issue mentions no one as an advocate. So if it doesn't mention it, it doesn't get in the next release, I guess. And it's not binding. Like you can say that the purpose of the roadmap is to say what we are planning to do. Some of the features that we are planning to do may not end up there, and they might get pushed for the next minor release. But still, like 90%, 95% of the things that we put there, they usually make it. So yeah. And the ones that are harder or would take more effort to implement. They're always in the, so our roadmap has the current minor release, like 117, and then the 118 and what's planned for it with the release dates. And then we have a 1.x feature, which lists generic features that we have on our radar to be doing, but not necessarily for our next minor release. And also 2.x plan, sort of like as the big plan for when 2.x 2.0 is being released.
Okay. I'm looking at the roadmap now. There's a lot about the roadmap that I don't know, so I won't go too deep in on that now. But
so yeah, that page basically the 2.0 and 1.x sections, they rarely get updated. But each time that we have a release, what I do is I move the previous version. So once 118 is out, I'm going to move the 117 section in the project history. See how there's a project history subsection there, sub page. So I'm going to move that section over to that project history. And then I'm going to add a new section for features planned for 119.
okay, so you're entirely maintaining the roadmap at this point.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a lot of free time, so being insomniac and all. So at nights when I don't have anything else to do, I just update pages.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be, it's not cumbersome for me. It doesn't have to be a one-man sort of like job. Everyone can participate. And it's not something that I do on a schedule. As soon as I see that a feature, milestone is converted to an actual milestone on an issue, what I do is I read through the issue from the queue, and then I go to the roadmap page and I add it there as a bullet point. It's just easy with a small summary. So
Okay.
my point is that if you don't leave a lot of a big chunk of work to be done, then it doesn't feel tedious. It's just, as long as it takes you to reply to an issue and post feedback, the same amount of time, like a minute or two.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about the roadmap in terms of outreach, in terms of, when somebody comes in, answering the question, what is this? What have you guys done? There's like, there's 18 different chunks of things that have been done, but how to portray that in a way that is meaningful to somebody who's not already familiar with it, who wants to, and so specifically, like most obviously people come from Drupal 7, but also, people coming from WordPress or from nothing.
Initially, the project history and the roadmap pages were a single thing, but it started after a few releases, because we do three minor releases each year. It started getting rather long, so we decided that we keep the 1.x and the 2.0, which sort of like depict the long-term goals, and then the current release, which is what happened recently, and the next one. So that's the goal, that the roadmap includes those things. And then for everyone that's interested in the activity of the project and how often new features get in, then we point them to the project history, which also points that we had on-time releases every 15th of every 4th month, and how much work got into its release, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly just interested in what's the succinct answer to if somebody's coming in like, why is this better than Drupal 7? And like we can all tell different pieces, but I don't think we automatically present that as effectively as we could. I think there's lots of neat things that we make people dig for.
Yeah, so
to find out.
In our front page, there's a section right below the black ribbon that says upgrade from Drupal 7. There's a section that says why use Backdrop CMS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has some headlines with a short description. And there's a new content type, content type specifically that I added for this to convert it to a view, so that if there's a new, not specific feature, but as a generic feature, like see how I said the thing about adding the title of a block to the title of the page, that wouldn't get in, but that could get into a, this is what you get on top of what you had with Drupal 7. So we could be updating a list there. So people say, all right, I want to move to D7, from D7 to Backdrop because of the support thing, the end of life thing. But what do I get like as an additional, as an added value, right? So there could be a point there which says, if we don't have such a point there, which I don't think we do. Yeah. Like we have points for upgrade from Drupal 7, right? There's a path, an upgrade path, being fast, adding more functionality quickly, mobile friendly, security being a priority, deploying changes easily because we have CMI, and remaining free forever. But we've added all those, features over time, over those 5 years, that if anyone wanted a, what you call it, a difference list, if you like a list that of things that you get with Backdrop out of the box as soon as you update from D7.
Yeah. Project server, for example, layout manager,
Yeah,
things like that.
Yeah,
right?
the project installer, things like that, which is, I think it's, yeah, that's the third point in that list. The add more functionality quickly.
Okay.
And yeah, and the point is that see how everything there has, and it wasn't apparently immediately what you call it, apparent to you. So the goal there was that each one of these small pieces of text would be its individual own thing, so people could click on it and find more about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a long-term plan, and I haven't worked on the actual Backdrop CMS org side in a long time. Sort of like being on the backlog for a while. But
Yeah. No, well, no, I mean, it's hard, but yeah, that's definitely okay. What else we got?
Events. Maybe it's worth mentioning that we are doing code sprints because of the upcoming release,
Yeah.
and the officially scheduled events are the upcoming ones, because we already had one last weekend.
Sunday.
Yeah.
January 2nd.
So yeah, it's not the coming weekend. The weekend after that is the next officially sort of like scheduled sprint. But some of us will be sprinting every weekend. I mean, even this coming one. And also for January 5th, right after the feature freeze, we have a virtual user group organized, which will be to highlight contributed modules. And I think Tim is planning to, as an outcome or deliverable of that, have some sessions recorded, like short presentations of modules being recorded. So that's an interesting thing. We're just out of time. We should start the dev meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Right. Thanks, everyone.